well, we got a grow room started this year, but I don't really know how we're going to fix this. Welcome to Creating My Kaleidoscope, where we talk about everything from finances, early retirement, to homesteading, gardening, and even crochet and craft fairs. Today's video is about our first year using a grow room to get ready for the garden, and more specifically, the one big mistake that I made as a newbie with the grow room. Before we get to that, how did we decide to start using a grow room this year? Well, if we look back to last year, we tried to use a greenhouse that came with our new property. It has some clear panels on the roof and some windows there, so we thought it would be perfect for getting our vegetables started for the garden. Unfortunately, it did not work very well, and our theory is that it just did not get warm enough early enough in the greenhouse to get plants really going for the garden when it was time to plant. Some things sprouted and we did put those in the garden, but they just didn't look that great. And we wanted to do more this year as well, as far as starting vegetable plants and also adding flowers to the garden. So we decided to set up a grow room. There is this scary room in the basement that isn't really used for anything. And it even has some built-in shelves, which were perfect for our plant starters. One thing that I didn't realize before I really started to prepare for the grow room is that you don't need special grow lights for seedlings. Instead, what I found were a 10-pack of LED lights, and the requirement is that they're supposed to have 4,000 looms to be good for seeds. So I found a 10-pack for about $80 on Amazon, and they're these 4-foot 4,400 loom shop lights, actually, and they're nice because you can hook one into the other, so you don't need 10 plugs for them, and they've worked great. They're growing things, so I will put a link for that in the description for the video. Highly recommend those lights. They're perfect. The next step in setting up the grow room was to get the seeds and the dirt. For us, we already had a ton of the little plastic planters from buying our plants, our seedlings from nurseries in the past. So I didn't have to get any of those. We had a ton. I am interested in maybe trying the seed block things next year, but for this year we were all set with the containers. The dirt, we did buy seed starting mix, and I bought, I think, 5 bags to start with, and then as we kept going I had to keep buying more and more. So I want to also next year look into getting the individual components and then mixing them together to make your own seed starting mix. I think it might be cheaper than buying all the individual bags like we did this year. But that's still not the great big mistake that I made. Still getting to that. Alright, so we got the containers, we have the dirt. Next thing up was the seeds. I bought seeds from a bunch of different places and they all worked fairly well. I also used some seeds from last year, specifically with tomatoes. I took our cherry tomatoes and our Roma tomatoes and I preserved them, put them in envelopes and saved them. They had a really great germination rate, which is wonderful because it's one less expense and that we didn't have to buy the tomato seeds. But I did buy a bunch of seeds. I got flowers this year because we are adding flowers to the garden. We are building a farm stand. So the idea is that we're going to be growing extra vegetables and we'll be adding flower bouquets to our farm stand to be selling those. I'm super excited not only to just grow flowers and have a field full of beautiful things, but also to bring some extra money in from the land that we have. Hopefully I can, make a profit on all of this. I have been keeping a spreadsheet of how much we've spent on the lights, the dirt, and the seeds. So we'll see how that turns out at the end of the season, and I will definitely provide an update on whether it was a profitable new adventure or something else. Alright, so everything is purchased. Now we're going to get to my big mistake. As you can see, everything is growing pretty well down here. We've got a bunch of marigolds, we've got tons of tomatoes, the zucchini are doing well, Brussels sprouts are growing. Come over here and the corn is doing great. Those look wonderful. And the corn is doing great. We have more flowers here. The green pepper isn't growing yet, but we're going to keep an eye on that one. When you go up here to this other shelf, All right, now it's time to talk about this big mistake that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to fix. I was so excited to get started with the grow room. I read the instructions on most of the seeds and tried to organize them by when they should be planted. My big mistake, I got a little too anxious to plant seeds. The worst one is the sunflowers. I ordered these beautiful white and purple sunflowers, and I was so excited to get them started nice and big, and my plan was to do 2 rounds of them. So I'd start with some, plant some more, and then we'd have staggered flowers available to harvest. I planted these way too early, and they are looking pretty sad. Now the lights are hung with rope and staples, so you can pull the rope and lift the level of the lights up and adjust them. But these sunflowers are really looking pretty sad. They want to be outside. They want to be in dirt. And I'm going to, do my best to keep them alive as long as possible. The problem is, it is the middle of April. We are in zone 5B. The frost date for zone 5B is May 15. We're not supposed to plant anything that is susceptible to frost until after May 15. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to fix this, you guys. Also, I planted the peas too early too. As you can see, they are reaching for the sky. They sprouted and they kept going. I am a little worried about the peas because I planted a ton of peas. I love the peas that you just pull off and can eat right off the vine. And we're going to be building trellises for them. I planted 96 peas. That might be too much. It didn't seem so at the time. But I'm not sure what's going to happen with those in the next 3 to 4 weeks that they need to stay inside. So, what am I going to do about this for next year? Well, I have a notebook. And I am taking notes on what is happening this year. So I can remember next year, when I see all of those pretty sunflower packets, not to get ahead of myself and be patient and wait. As you can see here, sunflowers, wait to plant. Hopefully that will get my attention. It's been a learning experience, and I am very optimistic that we're going to have tons of vegetables ready to go into the garden. We're not going to have to go to nurseries and buy their plants. We know, I have the good seeds that I know that they don't have any, anything bad in them. We'll say that. I know what potting soil I've used, the seedling starter, and just like we love to know where the food we're eating from the garden comes from, I have, seen these come up from seed and kept an eye on them and know exactly what has happened to them and what has not happened to them. So I'm really, really excited to get the garden going this year, get those seedlings out of the basement, and I hope that it is a very successful season for us, despite some, mix-ups here, which is all my fault. But thanks for joining me. I will definitely be providing more updates on those poor sunflowers and the rest of the plants that we have going. Hopefully the garden will be ready to go as soon as possible so we can get everything outside and we can get on with our growing season. Be sure to like and subscribe if you want to follow along with our journey. Thanks for tuning in. Here's a bonus tip. You don't need to buy markers for your plants. This one used to be a sour cream container. These ones over here, cappuccino. If you're going to be watering a number of plants, I found this to work really well. You pump and then spray. It also has this anti-fatigue, so it just sprays. Highly recommend.